When I first started playing Pokemon, the battles looked like this. And they were perfect. We've come a long way since then. Gaming looks a lot different than it did in 1996, and now the expectation from many fans is 3D Pokemon and open world. And some Pokemon have made a solid jump to 3D, while others have struggled with the transition. This year, on Pokemon Day 2025, we were all excited to see what the future of Pokemon would look like. We expected our first look at Pokemon Legends ZA, but truly had no other idea what we could expect from future Pokemon games. What we got was a look at something different. Pokemon Champions. As a huge fan who occasionally dabbles in the Pokemon VGC myself, this announcement was huge. But then I got to thinking, a Pokemon game that is centered around battles, that lets you bring your Pokemon from other games to battle on a larger scale. Where have I seen something like this before? Oh wait. Pokemon Stadium. The first time we saw 3D Pokemon battles. Up until now, we'd only seen Pokemon battles in the anime and on our Game Boys. So it was a big deal seeing battles utilizing the graphic capabilities of a home console. Throwing your Pokemon in a battle, watching them hop out of the Pokeball, and just seeing them exist. This game did such a good job of taking the battle mechanics of the Game Boy games and elevating them to breathe more life into the world of Pokemon. I never got to experience uploading my own teams from the Game Boy games, but the fact that you could was crazy. There is so much that I could say about Pokemon Stadium, but right now I need to talk to you about the feature of the game where I spent the most time. The minigames. I remember seeing Kids Club and as a kid just thinking,
about time they gave me a club.
We got 9 minigames featuring different Pokemon playing games in ways that just made sense for them. You want to talk about bringing Pokemon to life? This was the first time that I truly felt like I was a Sandshrew. At this point, we had Pokemon Snap, so we had seen some of these Pokemon behaving in a 3D environment before, but being able to control them ourselves, even if only for 45 seconds, was like a dream come true. We got Magikarp splashing, Sandshrew digging, Metapod hardening, and Clefairy tormenting us. These minigames were important because they presented us with a version of Pokemon that was accessible to anyone despite their knowledge of battles or type matchups. It was where you could gather with family and friends and have a fun multiplayer experience with people who might have never gave the franchise a shot before. So all of these minigames mean a lot to me, and I wanted to take some time to reflect on them, talk about what makes them so special, and rank my favorite ones. Initially, I really didn't want to do a ranking. However, ranking them is the easiest and laziest way that I could present this information to you, and I got a slowpoke on my head, so I'm feeling lazy today. Number 9. Now, I don't particularly dislike any of the minigames in Pokemon Stadium at all, but there are a couple that just don't push the limits as much as others do. Sure, I loved feeling like a Sandshrew, but really, all I had to do to get there was press L and R really fast. That's it. That's the game. Be the fastest to smack your controller's shoulder buttons and dig a hole like you're in Camp Green Lake. I know I just mentioned the draw of these games being their simplicity, but this game just feels like a straight line, while others on this list present you with more complex gameplay. A good minigame should keep things simple enough for entry, but leave you some room to master. Number 8. Although Pikachu is Pokemon's golden child, his minigame is unfortunately one of the weaker entries in this catalog. Sorry, bud. Thundering Dynamo is the name of the game, and it's very simple. Game rules: light blue, press A. Light green, press B. You mash these buttons until your bar fills up, and then you absolutely fry your opponents. Where Sandshrews game felt like a straight line, this line has a little pimple. Instead of just mashing a button, you had to pay attention to which color was displayed on the generator and mash accordingly. This game is not bad by any means, but once you knew your way around an N64 controller, the game just starts to lose its complexity. It's a simple concept, and while it is executed well, I feel like the other games on this list just give you more to do and feel like a more complete experience. These rounds are short. I would just like a little bit more. And they give you that in Pokemon Stadium too. But that's for another time. Number 7. Some of these games seem simple on the surface, but when the pressure is on, it's really easy to crack. Magikarp Splash is one of those games. You only have one button input, and it's A. As a Magikarp, you only have one goal.
What's the point of splashing?
But how quickly and fully you splash is what matters here. You hold A to jump high enough to hit the counter, and release to fall back down quickly and do it again. If you hold the button for too long, Magikarp jumps higher, making you wait longer for your next jump. The goal is to find the sweet spot of how long you have to press the button to just barely kiss the counter. You will flop while you learn the right rhythm for this, and even when you do figure it out, it's just as easy to slip up and mistime your jumps. I love this fish and I love this game. Number 6. One game that is undeniably good, but I am just plain terrible at, is Snore War. Snore War may be number 6 on this list, but it wins major points for its originality and having the best name of all the minigames. You play as a Drowsy using hypnosis on other Drowsies to the beat of a metronome and fighting to be the last one standing. I have never been able to get the timing right on this metronome. I figured maybe 25 years later, now a huge fan of rhythm games and former band student of 7 years, I would have better luck. I was wrong. Again, and again, and again, and you know what? Despite me being terrible at this game, I still love it. There were 151 Pokemon in this generation, including many fan favorites, and yet they chose to give one of the 9 minigame slots to Drowsy. This was a super fun choice, and I applaud Game Freak for doing it. Whoever's idea it was to give Drowsy his day in the sun, thank you. Number 5. Run Rattata Run. An all-out treadmill obstacle course, this rat race tested your reflexes and your coordination. With a fully rotating platform, it was easy to get caught slipping if you got too comfortable. Do you remember as a kid when we would challenge each other to pat our heads and rub our bellies? This game did something that created that same unnatural sensation. In games, we were used to running with our D-pads and analog sticks and pressing A to jump. But in this game, you actually ran by mashing A and jumped by pressing up on the D-pad. Even once you had this game figured out, under pressure, it's easy to accidentally send your poor Rattata into a hurdle. All 4 Rattata are close together too, so it was always tempting to check in on your opponents to see how far ahead or behind they were. This is, all in all, just a really, really solid minigame. Good job, Rattata. Number 4. Remember when I talked about games that were simple to learn but easy to slip up in? Rock Harden, starring Metapod and Kakuna, is another one of those games. You have to press A to harden right when the rocks are about to hit you. Playing against CPU characters, this game is pretty easy. But when you're playing against your friends who are actually good at this game of Quick Draw is really easy to slip up in, and it is not forgiving when you do. This minigame taking place in the desert is fitting because it really was the Wild Wild West out here. And I always used to wonder, who is throwing these rocks anyways? We actually wouldn't have an answer to this question for another 5 generations of Pokemon, and it turned out it was actually 3D Purloin standing up. Number 3. You know what they say, it's not a party until the Ekans shows up, baby. Our guy got his own game, Ekans Hoop Hurl. This is basically Ekans Ring Toss, in which the goal is to throw little Ekans hoops around Diglets to see who gets the most points. Each Diglett is worth 1 point, with the elusive Golden Diglett being worth a whopping 2 points. You throw Ekans by pulling your analog stick back and releasing it. How far he goes is based on the force at which you pull back the analog stick. Ekans using the sensitivity features of the N64 controller was a big deal to me personally. Much like Rock Harden, you get punished here for missing your targets as well. But instead of HP, what you lose in this game is time. When there are 3 other Ekans trying their best to pass you up and beating you to your targets, Waiting for your Ekans to come back after he belly flops feels like an eternity. You could take things easy and go for Digletts right in front of you, or you could be a menace and steal the ones in front of your friends. This game is so high on the list because it's one of the few that does give you a defensive option. Sure, it costs nothing to play the game with respect, but unfortunately, being ruthless is also free, and this game made it fun. If I could change one thing about this game, I would assign point values to the different rows, or at least to the middle row. Middle row Digletts are by far the hardest ones to hit, and it would be nice to be rewarded for getting them. Another favorite of mine was Sushi Go Round. The objective of this game is simple enough: eat as much sushi as you can to get the highest point total. But not all sushi is held to the same standard, and it is an all-out brawl when you see salmon nigiri or sea urchin. Also, the more you eat of a certain type consecutively, the more points you get. When you're not doing so hot, this makes it really easy to be tempted to go for the lower point rolls, because they come out in droves. Similar to real life, picking the right sushi is a delicate balance. And if that balance is disturbed, Lickitung will let you know. Much like Ekans Hoop Hurl, Sushi Go Round also gives you the option of playing defense. I'm talking NBA defense. You can literally box out your opponents. At a glance, I don't think you realize how busy 4 pink blobs chasing sushi feels on a screen. There is a lot going on in this minigame. It's a lot to keep track of, but you have plenty of options to find your path to victory, or to at least stop someone else from getting it theirs. And that is why I love this minigame. Clefairy says has truly never left my mind. If you were knocked out first, you have to live with that forever. You start with 4 directional button inputs that you have to memorize. Simple enough. But with each passing round, Clefairy adds 2 more, then 2 more, and she keeps adding them until there is only 1 Clefairy left standing. The music from this game is a banger, and to this day, the squeaky hammer sound is what I hear in my head anytime I make a mistake. It's funny that this game is so simple in concept, but has still managed to leave such an impression on so many of us. Maybe it's the massive difficulty spike contrasting with a task that's so simple on the surface that made it stand out. Love it or hate it, when anyone sees this image, they have a reaction. For me, all it takes is one glance at this classroom and I'm transported back. Also, for anyone who's still playing the Pokemon mainline games like me, we've gotten a couple of different event Pokemon over the years. I want to see Teacher Clefairy come back. Please, Game Freak, bring her home. So that's my list of the Pokemon Stadium minigames, but I truly do love all of them. One of my favorite things about these minigames is that they truly didn't need to exist, but yet they do, and they're one of the most memorable things about Pokemon Stadium. As a lifelong fan of Pokemon, it's incredible to see the growth of the franchise, and the growth of competitive Pokemon as an esport. But man, I really wish they would make more Pokemon minigames. We have Pokemon Stadium 2, but there have been 7 other generations of Pokemon since then, with endless potential for minigames. Pokemon has more fans around the world than ever before, so I'm not ruling anything out yet. I really hope that you've enjoyed hearing me yap about these silly, fun little minigames. Thank you so much for watching.